Herbert West is at the top of his class in medical school.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance. What are you?
He's brilliant, but a little weird. His experiments have always been unorthodox.
It was dead.
But lately, they're getting out of hand.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey. My mind already was drifting. Hey,
Jesus.
kids, it's Sunday morning. I stayed up till 1.
That's late. This week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we'll discuss the horror classic Re-Animator, starring Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton and others. Each week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. Good times. Aaron, how are you doing?
Oh my God, I forgot so much about this, and thank you for making me watch this again. I'm sure there are some scenes from this movie that popped into my dreams. My subconscious is giving me the dirty finger.
The dirty finger does not sound like a positive thing. I gotta be honest. Sweet
I woke
Jesus.
up and I had like 2 fists. I was like, no.
So am I getting the indicator this is not you're not a fan of this film? Is that what you're saying?
You know, there are parts. There are parts that I could have lived without. Mostly involving rape with a chopped off head.
Yes, that is a bridge too far. No question.
That is a lot. It's a lot. It's a
lot. Yeah, no question. No question.
Oh my Lord, baby Jesus.
Whenever I talk about Re-Animator, what I remember about it is the fact that the ads for this movie made it seem like it was going to be the most terrifying film that had ever been produced. And I'm talking like print ads. Like back in the day, you'd flip through your newspaper and it would have the ads for the upcoming movies. Like that's where you get the movie showtimes or whatever. And like it would have like no pictures from the movie. I think they did this with Life Force as well, where it's just like, this movie is so terrifying, we can show you nothing that occurs during the course of it. So you just have to understand if you buy a ticket, you will be terrified. So I never, as a child, I never saw this. I think I was like 10 when this movie came out. It wasn't until years later I saw it and I'm like, this isn't scary. What are you talking about? So Aaron, give me your 30-second synopsis of Re-Animator.
Well, let me tell you, this thing starts like bang because it's one, they've stolen the entire soundtrack from Psycho. And 2, there's clearly threw some money at this because the opening credits are pretty slick. It looks nice. You're like, okay, buckle up. This is going to be in for a ride. And I mean, it is just, they could not possibly have meant this to be serious. It could not, I cannot conceive of a world where they thought this was going to be a serious movie and that we were going to be frightened. Am I right or am I wrong?
Is this your 30-second synopsis? I usually just let you do it.
I'm building into it. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think there's definitely moments that are played for laughs. No question. No question.
So let's just start. Guy, eyes popping out of his head, acting crazy. Weird guy, changes school, goes to a new medical school, developed some kind of day glow MDMA serum that brings back the dead. I think if he broke into the Rosicrucian Museum and injected a mummy, old Krusty Malou might try to rise up and yammer at you. So of course, it makes you into a berserko unless you actually know the person, and then they're either somewhat with it or they can have full conversations. But if it's a stranger, they're berserko. They're like zombies or something that don't have the taste for blood. So anyway, of course, you get a roommate, and the women always know when your boyfriend's roommate is shady. The women's radar always knows. Always believe the women. Cat disappears. Cat's in the fridge. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to disturb you, but I found your cat dead, so I put it in my mini fridge next to my bologna sandwich. It's all drippy and oozy, because that's what people do. You want to pitch that shit in the trash. You can go. Your cat's dead. Dig it out of the trash if you want. Anyway, and of course, the daughter is like the dean or the headmaster or whatever the hell you call it of the medical school, and in fact never calls her dad. Calls him headmaster Charles or whatever the hell it is. And hijinks ensues. Everybody gets a dose of radioactive bullshit. Lecherous old professor tries to rape the dean's daughter with his severed head, which is so cringeworthy. You'll be like, what the F? Dear baby Jesus. Young couple survive.
Or do they?
Or do they? Because somebody gets the knock on the head, and now that leads into the next movie, Bride of Re-Animator.
It's interesting because the plot comes from it was kind of like a series of like a serial from like the 20s, I believe, by H.P. Lovecraft, called Herbert West Re-Animator was the name of the series. There were like 6 parts that he released like a serial form. And it was
Does this still have to do with this fear of being black? Like he reanimates you and now you're black or something?
H.P. Lovecraft is everybody's favorite racist and xenophobe. But I have to say, I do like his stories. If you just set aside all the bad stuff, yes. But you're absolutely...
Is this like how you compartmentalize like music? Well, like now it's okay to listen to Michael Jackson because he's dead.
It's exactly
right?
like that.
H.P. Lovecraft has been dead for a long time. But I have one more question about H.P. Lovecraft.
Please.
You know, there's Lovecraft Country on HBO.
Saw it. I liked it.
Okay, will there be a Re-Animator in the next season of Lovecraft Country?
Will there be another season of Lovecraft Country is the question.
I hope so. I was kind of liking it, but it was stressful because they mixed the supernatural with the real life atrocities that our black friends suffered through the ages. I mean, horrible.
Absolutely. It was an interesting juxtaposition to combine those things. It's actually based on a book, which I haven't read yet, but I'm going to. No,
Throw it out for book club, Brother Bear.
Sounds good.
Because I'm going to recommend that Melissa Gilbert autobiography when it's my turn.
Are you serious? Oh, God.
I think everybody needs to read that. About how Rob Lowe broke up with her when she got knocked up.
Aaron's a loose cannon when it comes to our book club. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on.
I'm full of coffee. This is the first thing I've done this morning. I've had a pot of coffee. And I'm vibrating on some kind of different frequency.
Absolutely.
So let's rock and roll.
So H.P. Lovecraft, the story was meant to be his kind of version of Frankenstein. But what's interesting is they wound up like kind of inadvertently creating zombies as we know them today back in the 20s. You know what I mean? Before Night of the Living Dead, years before. I think even before like White Zombie with Bela Lugosi, he had written this thing. Now, it had kind of fallen out of print by the mid-'80s. So Stuart Gordon, who was the director and kind of creative force behind this, dug it out and created his own flavor on it as well. But you can absolutely. But you can see Herbert West, the titular character, is not meant to be a good guy at all. And another thing that I find interesting is that in some ways, the basic theme, the underlying like inciting incident is very similar to Pet Sematary. by Stephen King.
I wrote that down. I said, what came first, Pet Sematary or this?
Well, the original book, Herbert West's Re-Animator, was much earlier than Stephen King's Pet Sematary. But the book Pet Sematary was before the movie Re-Animator, which I believe was before the movie Pet Sematary. It's all very confusing.
But question,
yes.
In the book Re-Animator, is there this whole cat thing? Because, based on could mean anything. I've seen so many movies based on real things where the part that it's based on is the title and the based on. And yet nothing else is right.
Right. Oh, no question. I think that the cat coming back from the dead is, if it's in the original story at all, which I'm not sure it is, it's much more prominent in Pet Sematary.
Oh my God. It was so disgusting. They were, the cat is Berserko. But let's face it, it is still a cat. And a small cat. It's not one of these Maine Coon cats where you always see these people on the gram holding it up. It looks like it's a 7-year-old. This is like a little black cat that is literally flying through the air with blood on its mind. They're hitting it with baseball bats, fruitcake, sticks, and finally somebody grabs it and throws it against the wall, and it like splats like an egg. And then they bring it back again.
Not a good move. Cats, by definition, are of the devil. Okay, and I used to have cats, right? And their claws could just turn you into Swiss cheese in 2 seconds. I watched the movie Beast the other night, which I don't think we're going to do on this show, but it's like...
That means it sucks.
It didn't suck. It was actually pretty good. But it's about a giant lion. And I'm just like, if my house cat is any indication with their like needle claws, what would happen to you if a lion got at you? Forget it. It's ball game.
It's all bad. It'll be all bad. And actually they say house cats are actually an alien species.
I believe it.
Because even if they like you, I had a cat that would wait around the corner for you to pass and then just put that arm out.
Absolutely. I had 2 little baby kittens years and years ago, and I would be trying to sleep, and they would climb under the sheets of my bed and scratch my feet while I was sleeping. They thought it was fun. They were, basically. Anyway, so you tell me, this is not the first time you've seen this movie. Do you remember when it was?
I'm sure it was for your B Movie Club YouTube. Hey kids, let's go check that out. I'm sure that was it. Come on, let's be straight. After watching the Severed Head Dude, I managed to block that all out of my head. Poor naked Barbara Crampton. I felt violated just watching.
Absolutely.
That.
Well, and like I said, I definitely didn't see it in the 80s. I think like in the 90s, maybe when I was in college, I finally saw it.
Oh, you didn't go with like mom and dad to go see that?
Mom and dad, yes, exactly.
Come on, kids, let's get in the station wagon. We're gonna go see Re-Animator after church.
The parish priest took us. The nuns, yes, absolutely.
Sister Catherine.
Sister Catherine. I saw it. I think in college. But after I saw it, it became a staple in the Doherty household because I love this movie. I think I own it. It is dynamite. Dynamite. Spoiler alert. I'm in.
It is so peculiar. Another thing that can only be improved by musical theater.
And I have to agree with you. I dig the opening theme. I know it's basically a rip from Psycho, but I prefer this version.
The entire soundtrack. Yeah.
I prefer this. It's very cool.
Well, our main character, I can't remember his name, but he's in all the horror movies. He kind of looks like Anthony Perkins.
He does. Absolutely. Jeffrey Combs. Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs. That's right.
So let's jump right in and talk about the highlights. What you got first?
Well, I thought we did, friend. Well, first of all, Arkham, Massachusetts.
Yep.
Is that a real place or is that Arkham Asylum?
I think we've talked about this before. Arkham, Massachusetts and Miskatonic University are both creations of H.P. Lovecraft. All of his.
So
Go ahead.
is Arkham Asylum borrowing from that
Yes.
too? Then
Arkham Asylum from Batman takes its name from Arkham, Massachusetts, from H.P. Lovecraft.
very nice. What you got, brother?
My first thing I wrote down was eyeballs a poppin', and that kind of sets the tone because we're.
Me too, brother. Me too. I said, if you see eyeballs about to pop, you don't walk forward, you walk backwards.
You walk backwards. It sets the tone for the kind of weird gore that you're going to be encountering in this movie. Herbert West has just, I guess his professor died. That's what we think. His professor in Germany, wherever he is. We assume of natural causes, and Herbert has brought him back using his formula. I love how they just yada yada the formula. When the movie starts, he's already got it. I've already figured out. It's just a question of how much of the formula do I use is basically the mystery. And
no explanation.
Nope.
But is it the doctor that he was working under is the one that was actually, it's like he's killed Dr. Frankenstein and tried to Frankenstein the doctor.
That's the question. It's like he says, I didn't kill him. I brought him back or whatever. So did the doctor have a heart attack? But with Herbert West, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he murdered his mentor to bring him back, essentially.
Possibility. But quite frankly, I mean, with this formula, you could just walk down the street and pick up just random dead things and give it a little shot to the back of the head.
Well, but that's the thing about this. It's like he's constantly searching for the freshest dead person to bring back, because then maybe, cross your fingers, they'll come back in some semblance of personality as they had when they were alive. But we never really encounter that in this movie.
So what they're doing is it like that, like what they have now, where they give you that shot and start to pump you to, what is
adrenaline?
That? Like a shot of adrenaline to get things going. So maybe that's it. Maybe he was just a man before his time.
It's entirely possible.
I mean, does adrenaline glow in the dark like you're at a rave?
It does. It's like a glow stick. People don't realize that. Well, and here
people don't realize that the inside of a glow stick will actually reanimate.
It will. Little known fact. Write that down. Thing about it is, when you do adrenaline, they shoot the person in the heart with the adrenaline, but then they're doing the chest compressions to pump it.
You got to circulate it.
Right.
You got to circulate it. You got to get it going. This dude, at first it was like, I got to put it right in the back of your head. And then it was just like, I'll just pop it in randomly. Right. And then it just finds its way, I guess. In 15 seconds, it finds its way.
Well, and that's the thing. He shoots, the people with the syringe, but there's no chest compressions. If you're dead, there's no fluids are not pumping through your body, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, usually when you're dead, but I play one on TV. Right. Usually when you're dead, the heart is not actually beating. You can be brain dead.
Yes.
And your heart is still beating. But there's no, my brain is alive and I'm going to talk to you, but my heart no longer works.
That is true. My heart no longer works.
Those are my last words. My heart no longer works.
That's kind of a sad story.
That's right. It's going to be a song for my new synth pop album.
Did you catch the name of Herbert West's doctor in Germany? Professor.
No, tell me.
Hans Gruber.
Why do I know Hans Gruber? Because I know that name. Was that in Andy Warhol's Frankenstein?
It was not. Hans Gruber, it was the leader of a gang of terrorist thieves that take over the Nakatomi Tower in Die Hard.
Yeah, that would be why I really don't know, since I think you made me once watch a Die Hard, but otherwise I've never seen it.
It's Alan Rickman. You've seen it. You know exactly. We watched it one Christmas, and it is...
That's what dynamite. I said. One time you forced me to watch it. I do like Alan Rickman.
It is dynamite.
R.I.P., R.I.P.
He is dynamite. What else you got?
All right. So this guy is such a loose cannon. He's the guy in the Mr. Combs. He was in the Frighteners too, right?
He was, yes. He's in a
Oh my
bunch of
god,
stuff.
I do it. Oh yeah, always the same freaking character. I can't imagine him going to PTA meetings with his kids.
No offense.
No offense. I'm sure you procreated and have a normal life, but you just can't imagine. He's sitting in. So now he's joined a new university. I don't know. He's in medical school,
Yes.
or he's working on an advanced degree. We don't know. So the doctor is lecturing. He's just sitting there. He breaks a pencil.
I wrote that down.
And then he reaches in, like, how many pencils? Like then all of a sudden he breaks another pencil. And the professor's like, you might be interested in trying a pen. I just think it would have been funny if he just ignored him and just kept going. When he just there's piles of pencils, just snapping. And it's still that over-the-top emotion. You're filling these children's heads with lies.
Right.
Of course we can bring back the dead. Roar! You're like, what the? Get the hell out of here.
That was the bone of contention. That something like, brain death will occur within 7 to 12 minutes. And Herbert West says, that's not true. Based upon my twisted experiments in Germany, I know that brain death can take place later. I don't know.
How did he get into this medical school? What the hell? And wouldn't that just be enough to say, peace in the Middle East, Brother Bear, get out of here?
Right. That's the question. So this
expelled.
So this establishes the kind of rivalry between Herbert and his professor, Dr. Hill, the evil Dr. Hill, we learn.
The evil molesty Dr. Hill, super creepster.
Absolutely. But you're absolutely, I wrote that down. How many damn pencils does he have? But it was funny because in real life, very rarely are there like, we are two adults and we're going to have a screaming match in front of 50 other, eyewitnesses, innocent people. It's not like, maybe we should take this conversation to another room. No. We need to have we need to throw this down in front of everybody. Is that how it works?
Absolutely.
That's how it works.
That's how it works in public school. I don't know.
Absolutely. This movie, if you are interested in seeing many, many, many naked corpses, this is the movie for you. They're like 5 minutes into the movie, we meet the nice guy, the roommate of Herbert West, whose name just jumped right out of my brain. He is giving chest compression, CPR, to a woman in like a hospital bed. She's gone, Dave, or whatever his name is. And of course, she has to be totally topless. Naked as could be.
Absolutely. You cannot do CPR, even if you're like a 60-year-old obese woman, unless I completely disrobe you and have one of your boobs flopping off the table. Then I can start chest compressions, because I can totally undress a very large obese woman in about 6 minutes and do CPR before her brain pops.
Before brain death. Exactly. I appreciate the fact that she's not a supermodel. This is a woman who is not a young woman and not a fit woman. Let's just say that.
I will say that when it comes to nudity, this is a very inclusive production. You have men and women of various shapes and sizes, but it is poor Barbara Crampton with the extreme close.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So, okay. In the emergency room, cardiac arrest, your heart stops. Step one, totally disrobe the patient. Take as much time as you need. They must be naked as a jaybird before you can think about administering any sort of care. So it's a good thing you have 6 to 12 minutes before brain death, according to Dr. Hill.
And then pencil snap.
And then pencil snap, exactly. But yet, like I said, this is not the last occurrence of strangely unattractive naked person that you see, because throughout the movie, especially in the climax at the end of the movie, where our heroes are trying to get away, because it's the morgue or whatever. So it's naked zombie. gunshot victim, burn victim, whatever, naked as can
Oh,
be.
it's all gloppy.
Yes.
It's all the number one thing is they needed to have something gloppy. I thought it was a Sam Raimi film. I thought something was going to fall out of them and into someone else's mouth. I was waiting for
If
it.
only.
And it makes no sense. Why would he just walk around the morgue and reanimate every psychopath? Because he's showing up until this point that everyone who gets the juice is like they're on roid rage and they're bouncing off the walls and acting like a maniac.
Well, what happens at the end of the movie is evil Dr. Hill. We have to talk about this. Okay.
We haven't even talked about his demise.
Right. We haven't talked about anything. So Dr. Hill, they kind of established that he's kind of a plagiarist. Like his big claim to fame was some kind of theory. And when we meet him, Herbert West literally says, like, really, your theories are very similar to my former dead mentor, Dr. Gruber. And in Europe, they're considered plagiarism.
Whoa,
Boom. 5 minutes after meeting him, drops that nugget on him. Later, it's...
Well, and of course, just a dose of reality, you know, there was communication between America and Europe in the 80s. I don't know if that's a secret, but
true.
For sure it was real. And in, I'm assuming the scientific community, that would be well known and you would lose your job.
You would think. Absolutely.
You would think. We don't know quite what this universe... It could be one of those charter school universities. We don't know.
That's exactly correct. So later in the movie, Dr. Hill tries to blackmail Herbert West into giving him his secret formula and his notes and all that stuff, and is going to claim that they're his discovery because that's just how he rolls. This causes Herbert West to flip out, hit him in the head with a snow shovel, and use the same shovel to decapitate him. Boom.
Oh, that was so gruesome. He literally holds the shovel to his head and puts his boot on it like you're digging a hole and just snaps it clean off.
The world needs ditch diggers too. So
that's right. Thank you, Mom.
He pops it off, and his big zinger as he does it is he just goes, plagiarist.
And then picks up the effing head and immediately just brings him back. But then why do you bring the body back too? Then he goes, and then we learn that it doesn't have to be the back of the head. I guess he could have just shoved it in his tongue because he goes over to the decapitated body and shoots it right in the sternum.
Herbert West is a scientist. So he's going to do some experiments. He's got a freshly killed, decapitated head. And there's a moment played for comedy where he puts Dr. Hill's head in like one of those, I don't know what it's called, a tray, some sort of, medical tray. And it keeps flopping over. So he takes those spikes that people used to like stick like messages on their desk.
Right.
And just sticks it right underneath Dr. Hill's stump, puts it on the tray, and then it sits perfectly.
It looks like one of those chicken roasters, so you could have the chicken standing upright.
Right, a rotisserie, if you will. And he gives it, and Dr. Hill, for whatever reason, he was already crazy. But when he comes back, he's basically the same personality. No change, just as eloquent as ever.
Yeah, even with no lungs to pass air through your vocal cords, he can talk just as well as before. Just a little bit more breathy, a little Brenda Vaccaro, a little emphysema-y.
Poor Brenda Vaccaro. She always gets these shout outs for her husky voice. But this scene was on all the posters back in the day. And they'd say, Herbert West has one good head on his shoulders and another on his desk or something like that. So...
yeah, it looks like a turkey roaster, like at Thanksgiving. So next Thanksgiving, when the turkey comes out of the oven, now they'll imagine a severed head in there.
Exactly. So, good time. So at the end of the movie, jumping ahead, Dr. Hill has reanimated all the corpses in the morgue, and he's given them the formula, which he stole, even though he's headless. And he uses a laser drill or something is what he calls to essentially lobotomize all of the corpses so that now they just follow his commands. So that makes them less
Right.
crazy, I guess. I don't.
They're docile. They're more docile, and like they just are like, oh, okay, all right, cool.
They're docile until he basically directs them to murder Herbert and his buddies. Then not so docile anymore. Very sad.
Womp womp. And we are not mentioning that that Barbara Crampton's father, the dean, the headmaster, whatever the hell, is also one of the zombies.
Right. Okay, so later in the movie, when the dude, central character, discovers like Herbert has created the formula because he brought the cat back from the dead, blah, blah, blah. He goes right to the dean and says, it's incredible. You got to see, Herbert's come up with this formula. The dean is incredulous and says, based upon this story you've told me, I am now revoking your scholarship and I'm expelling Herbert West. Good day, sir. And you're never to see my daughter again. You're out of here. So
it was very it gave me the vibes of Animal House. You were like on double secret probation.
Right. I mean, and this was
Dean Wormer.
Right. Basically, I mean, the dean liked this guy for the entire movie and liked that he was dating his daughter. But this one conversation, he's like, that's it. You're done. You're dead to me. Be gone with thee.
Yeah. It seems like if you can bring the dead back, that would bring a lot of money to your school.
Right. I guess, look, it's a crazy thing.
Seems like pharmaceutical companies might be interested.
You may be right.
Seems so.
But later, now they have to sneak around the hospital. So Herbert and his buddy sneak into the morgue where there's a guard stationed who's reading the magazine Boudoir and constantly has to excuse himself. Ooh, I'm gonna be in the bathroom. You can handle this, right? So they go into the morgue and they do an experiment on this big muscly guy. Bring him back, but of course he's a raving psychopath. The dean gets word that these two students who are effectively kicked off campus are in the morgue. He goes there himself, and to confront them, he gets attacked by the giant zombie and for some reason puts his hands in the zombie's mouth and the zombie bites the fingers off. You don't have to put your fingers in the zombie's mouth. Little known fact.
It's like the monkey from Nope. Did it eat his lips?
It could be. Could be. So the dean is killed by the zombie right before Herbert kills the zombie with a bone saw by just stabbing him right through the back. So the bone saw comes through his chest. Lovely. There are a lot of these interesting scenes.
So are they saying? I was very confused by that because they have a bone saw. I mean, we do have a dude running around with no head and a body. So are they saying the only way to kill these people is to dig out their heart?
I don't think they really think about
it. Or is he afraid that he cut the head off, that it would still be tap dancing around?
It would still be tap dancing. Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles.
They never really discuss it, is to answer your question. They don't.
No, they don't really discuss a lot about
They do not.
this.
So the dean is dead now. But Herbert's like, ooh, the guy we just reanimated had been dead for a few days. The dean just died. If we can bring him back, then, I can prove my theory, essentially, that my formula works. So they zap the dean. He comes back, but of course he's like a drooling moron. Essentially, flopping around, chasing people.
And once again, let's say that he was reanimated as fast as the professor. And yet one is like a cringing freako. And the other one is
Dr. Hill.
Dr. Hill is pretty much just the same. Just a little breathy.
Right. Well, clearly if homie, if the dean is reanimated literally 2 minutes after dying and he's not normal, I'd say your formula is a failure, right? I mean, I think we go back to it brings you back, but not as who you were.
Right.
So on some level, it's back to the drawing board. Am I right?
So couldn't
I
they
don't
just
know.
kill you and then just bring you back again and just keep doing that forever?
Well, that's called murder. At some point, you can't just kill people.
Can you murder people that are already dead? If you kill a vampire, is that in fact murder? Is it homicide?
That's a good question.
There you go. Are they alive?
Who's to say?
Or are they undead?
I don't know.
It's a mystery.
These are important questions.
It's a mystery for the ages.
I did write down why is Dr. Hill so normal, but Dean Halsey is not.
Right. And
no explanation.
Why are the other zombies so agitated and angry, but the dean is like cringing in a corner crying?
These are important questions. Now, well, initially, so they put him in like in a straitjacket and put him in an insane asylum. Later, Dr. Hill in Arkham Asylum. Dr. Hill lobotomizes the dean with his laser drill, which I guess kind of makes him more docile after that. I'm guessing. I keep calling him the buddy. Let me just look up
my buddy. That reminds me of those dolls for boys. My buddy.
My buddy.
My buddy.
My buddy.
Did you have a my buddy?
I did not have a my buddy, but they clearly inspired the Child's Play movies.
Clearly.
Am I right?
Clearly.
I mean, it's the exact same. Chucky is essentially a my buddy.
It is 100% my buddy.
Okay, so the buddy is called, speaking of my buddy, is Dan. Dan is the protagonist of the movie, the good guy who, basically becomes roommates with Herbert and therefore becomes like an accessory to his unholy acts,
yes,
essentially. Dan goes to his girlfriend Megan and admits the whole thing. The reason why your dad became a drooling imbecile yesterday is because of our unholy science experiments came and killed him, and we brought him back from the grave, and that's why he is the way he is.
Oh, okay.
To her credit, she forgives him instantly.
I understand, my love. Ridiculous. I'd be like, what the F?
Right. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. That's basically what she says after 4 seconds deliberation.
Yeah.
So, good times.
She might be a little psychopath herself. Maybe Dr. Hill and her are a good match.
That is correct. That is correct. So, Dr. Hill carries his head around in his hands and puts like a fake like mannequin head on his shoulders. And he puts like a surgical mask on and a surgical hat to kind of obscure his features, which obviously don't look normal.
Did you notice that the one half, it was one of those like display heads where half of it is a human face, the other half is like the muscles. Did you notice that the human face looked exactly like the headmaster?
I did not notice that. Now I have to go back and watch. You gotta
go back and look.
In my research, though, which is hilarious, it never even occurred to me watching this movie 1,000 times, Barbara Crampton, the actress in this movie, went to them as they're filming this scene and says, if he can put the crazy mannequin head on his shoulders, why can't he just put his real head on his shoulders?
100%. That's all I kept thinking. I kept waiting for the part where like he would get the dean to hold it while he just put those surgical staples and stapled the meat flap, onto his arm. I kept waiting for that to happen, and yet it never did. He found it more convenient to carry his head in a purse, I guess.
Well, and where he cannot see, essentially. Right. So he's like walking into things. Anyway, in their defense, in the book, in the original book, he has kind of like a wax head that he has on his shoulders. H.P. Lovecraft did not consider this possibility either, I guess. So who the hell knows? But if he did that, then you wouldn't get the famous, as I call it, giving head scene. because the reveal is Dr. Hill was always kind of obsessed with the dean's daughter in an unholy way. So he gets his Dean Halsey, who's now under his thrall, to kidnap Megan and bring her back to the morgue, where she's stripped naked.
Yeah, where she's instantly disrobed and like clomped. They like literally, you can tell like she's actually, I think, taller than her father, so he's a little struggling carrying her through the door, through the scene, and practically drops her on the metal table.
Poor Barbara Crampton. I have to say, this was in that period of her career where it's just like, if she's in it, she's going to show her boobs at some point. We talked about how she was in Body Double for literally 30 seconds, where she has no lines, just turns around, bare-chested, and kind of looks at the camera.
They're like,
that was her role.
And natural breasts, God bless her.
God bless her. So good times. So she is tied to the table, and Dr. Hill is holding his head towards her breasts and then down towards between her legs.
Oh, we need to go into more detail.
Horrifying.
First of all, the next
I don't
scene,
think we do.
He's sitting, his head in a tub is next to her head, and he's literally like he's watching porn. It's so disgusting. And the hands are just grabbing the boobs, but like so mechanical. It's just like womp, womp, womp. And then he goes over and has his body pick up his head, where he then is like licking her ear and just dragging. and the tongue is out and visceral.
Yes.
I don't know how much more blood is in his throat, but it's just dripping down. It was so disgusting. And
it was
clearly at one point the actor is right on top of her just to get these shots. Oh my God, I felt violent. I felt like I needed a shower and a counseling session. Trigger warning.
It's absolutely a trigger warning. But you think, correct me if I'm wrong, this has got to have been done for laughs. Right? It is so absurd.
It is so
ridiculous.
Gross and disgusting. Yes. And then they're just going to shove his head between her legs for oral pleasures. Is that what it is?
Oh, that's what we're supposed to think.
That was the part where you're like, don't have like anything heavy on your stomach because you're going to upchuck.
That is true. That's a rough one. You need a palate cleanser after that. There's one line that always makes me laugh. Dr. Hill's like taunting Herbert now. This is, again, headless Dr. Hill. It's basically like, I'm going to take your discovery and become rich and famous. And Herbert's like, you have no head. Well, who's going to believe a talking head get a job in a sideshow?
You can't even figure out how to staple your old severed head back on your body, you son of a...
You son of a gun.
I mean, I assume if they're alive that he's going to need to eat at some point, or are they just going to shove stuff down the hole?
Right. Well, this is a question.
Over?
The issue is... Are they alive or are they zombies?
Right.
That's the question. Because, believe it or not, you cannot walk around with your head separated from the rest of your body.
With your head
Dr. Hill does
underneath your arm. No, can't do it. And if you're alive, you're going to have to be able to make a poop, and you're going to have to be able to drink water and eat food.
You will.
Little known fact.
You have to support. Little known. Absolutely. Do you have any other notes you want to share?
Oh, I have a couple of notes. And then the next scene, she's completely dressed. When did that happen?
Right. She's like, I will not be one of the naked people running around for the final climax of this movie. You better throw a robe on me or something.
Yeah, because she's literally wearing something totally different than what she rolled in on. And then there's the final scene. Zombies running pell-mell everywhere. naked zombies. Let's be clear with that.
I wrote that down. Yep.
And then, so I don't know, whatever the hell the dude's name is. He's gonna kill one of the zombies by double tapping him with the special glow stick juice, and that causes some mystical reaction from the depths of hell. Organs are shooting out, and now Super Colon reaches out and circles him and tries to what? Drag him into the portal that is his colon? Or what is happening?
That is correct.
At the end?
It's just good science.
It's just good science.
Herbert attacks Dr. Hill with a double dose of his secret formula. And he shouts overdose or something along those lines. And it turns Dr. Hill's body becomes a crazy like a cave with light shooting out, with his lower intestines shooting out and attempting to strangle poor Herbert.
But not like little intestines. It's not like you're getting you're at the taco stand with the little intestine. This is like a healthy colon. Like, this is what the doctor sees when he's removing your polyps. Except like it's 15 feet long. It's like an anaconda. I'm like, I think he was impacted.
It was like a giant squid from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was reaching out, but it was his intestines.
But it wasn't. And what was going to happen next? We don't know.
We don't know. Well, a fire has broken out because the crazy people or the crazy zombies have lost their mind because Dr. Hill's head got squished by Dean Halsey, who snaps out of his zombification to fight off the zombies for a moment and allow Dan and Megan to escape.
He's got Hulk smash strength. So now he has the dude's head. First he gouges out the eyes, and then he just, with both hands on either side of the head, crushes a human skull because Hulk smash.
Squish. And then there's the silhouette of him being torn limb from limb by the other zombies. So it's not a happy day. Dan and Megan leave Herbert to his fate because, there's a fire broken out. He's being strangled by intestines.
Yeah.
They're like, adios.
But right before that, he manages to get up, get the notes, and throw them to him, and then what? Lays back down so he can be consumed into the giant orifice.
That's correct. Here are the notes that have caused you nothing but pain and horror. Your career is ruined. You're on the run. Here, take my notes. I'm going to be asphyxiated by these intestines. Deuces.
Deuces, mother.
Anything else, or shall we do behind the scenes?
I think that about wraps it up.
Behind the scenes, are you ready?
Go.
The special effects department went through 24 gallons of fake blood during the shoot.
Not surprised.
They said this was the bloodiest film they'd ever worked on and had never before used more than 2 gallons of fake blood.
They're doing a little Tarantino before Tarantino.
You're telling me.
He was still working at the video store.
David Gale was the actor who played the evil Dr. Hill. And when his wife saw the infamous giving head scene, she stormed out of the theater shouting, "David, how could you?" And they were soon divorced.
Whoa!
They were having problems before this.
There might have been problems before that.
Yes. David, how could you? Yeah, he's a method actor. What?
I guess. That's the
Stuart Gordon originally intended this to be a faithful beat-by-beat adaptation of the H.P. Lovecraft story.
I wonder what happened.
The film ultimately had very little in common with the story, which, as I said, was meant to be a parody of Frankenstein. Very sad. The reagent that Herbert West uses to bring people back from the dead was just glow stick juice.
For sure.
Clearly, which I'm not sure that's healthy to be handling and all good stuff.
Don't shoot up glow stick juice, kids. It won't make you glow at dark. No.
The opening theme borrows heavily from Psycho, like we said, which was like
Borrows
written
heavily. Come on.
heavily by Bernard Herrmann, was the Alfred Hitchcock's composer that he used.
How was it? How
ahead.
were they not sued?
Because it's not exactly.
It's almost exactly.
It's pretty GD close. Let's just say
Artists
that.
are suing each other for like one single line, and I was like, this was fucking Psycho. It was Psycho. It's like saying the disco version of Star Wars is not Star Wars.
Wait a minute. The disco version of Star Wars? Is there a disco version?
There is a disco version of the Star Wars theme.
Okay, well, I have to check this out now.
Indeed. I have the album.
Leonard Maltin gave the movie 3 stars, but penalized it a half star for its blatant ripping off of the Psycho theme.
Boom.
So there you go. H.P. Lovecraft never really liked his Re-Animator stories and wrote them only because he got $5 per installment.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. The woman Dan is seen attempting to resuscitate at the beginning of the film was a quote-unquote dildo enthusiast and was known to hide them with the fake corpses on the morgue set.
So after that scene, she was just hanging out?
Yes. Just hanging out, throwing stuff. Well, because I think she was one of the zombies at the end of the movie.
She's a merry prankster. I like her already.
The actor, Dr. Hill, said he felt spiritually bereft regarding the scene. They called it the spelunking scene in Barbara Crampton's Lady Business.
Oh!
And then apparently his wife felt he didn't feel awful enough because she didn't come home after the screening.
Oh!
Dr. Hill. There's a lot of Dr. Hill facts here. He had to shave his head and wear a toupee because...
And it looks like a toupee.
He had to wear a toupee because that was the only way they could make the matching hair on the fake head. Basically, was to have the same wig on both the person and the fake head.
Oh my God.
Wah, wah. Very sad. Barbara Crampton talked about doing nude scenes for this and other films, and she basically told them, you can have me fully naked for 4 minutes, and that's it.
Boom.
And then I'm out. And that's it. And if you watch, you really don't see her fully naked for that long at all. It might be like 5 seconds where you see...
You got to respect it. You got to respect it, man. And then I'm up. No, she means on film. She doesn't mean that you got 4 minutes to shoot this and I'm getting the F out of here.
Maybe she did mean that. Who's to say? Yeah. Now, she's talked about how it's like she doesn't have an issue doing nudity as long as she feels like it fits with what's going on in the story.
That's
I guess.
Stretch.
It's a stretch. Well, she also said it's like, do it while you can do it because there's going to be a point where you can't do it anymore.
I agree. I mean, if you're comfortable, there's all kinds of nudist people. I mean, our mother is one, always naked. I don't know what that's about.
It's true. The actor who played Dean Halsey, for like most of the movie, he's kind of zombified, and he said he stopped for gas on his way home from shooting. And the tenant was like, do you need any help, man? Is everything okay? Womp womp.
Like literally he went home with his makeup on?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's how he did it.
I want to talk back about the nudity again. I'm like, if you're comfortable with nudity, that's good. But if you're not comfortable with nudity and you're doing it because you want to be in Hollywood, I think that's where you're going to get into trouble.
Well, I agree with that. Well, and the issue, what's bizarre,
you got to be true to yourself.
Absolutely. There was no nudity, like through the 60s, and then they kind of, they instituted the MPAA, basically, and they said, okay, now we have different ratings, and it was like starting the 70s, suddenly certain movies of a certain type had to have nudity. You know what I mean? It's like now because we can, we will. And that was kind of the thing. It's like now you can see It's kind of because people can, you don't see it as often as you used to. You know what I mean?
And I think in the 80s, there's a big difference because it's in the 80s you could have women full frontal nude, right?
Yep.
But they almost never showed men nude. It's very sexist.
That's true. That's
it's very sexist.
You might see a guy's butt, but you're not going to see his jingle jangle jingle.
And why not? You got to see, Ms. Muffy. Why not a dingle dangle?
Okay, this is an interesting conversation. You really don't see a whole lot of Miss Muffy either. You might see a little patch.
A little fringe.
Do the carpets match the drapes?
This isn't like a deep dive. This is not, it's not like pornography where your camera's entering the tunnel, It's nothing like that. But yes. It's not Game of Thrones where there's 700 penises in the opening scene. Dancing.
What's funny about Game of Thrones is the first season was basically like Red Shoe Diaries. It was like unmotivated nudity and sex scene, because why not?
Every other scene was in a brothel. Yes. Every other.
They
HBO does
characters.
That every frickin' time. The first season is moss nudity. And then the next season, they're like, bah, we got him now.
We
put your britches back on.
Exactly. Very sad. Let's talk about the cast, shall we?
Shall we?
Jeffrey Combs played Herbert West. You know him. He was in The Frighteners. He was in From Beyond. He was the main character of that as well.
The penile gland.
Penile gland. He was in something called Would You Rather?
No,
he was I would not. He was actually in several Star Trek movies and TV shows. He was basically Mr. Star Trek. He's been in a million different derivations, including like the more recent movies.
Face. He's in the more recent one, the J.J. Abrams ones?
Yes, I believe so. If I'm remembering correctly. He's dynamite. Dynamite. Let's see. Dan Kane was played by Bruce Abbott. You know him from Re-Animator, something called Interzone. He was in Bride of Re-Animator. He was in a movie called Tag, the Assassination Game.
Oh, I remember that. That was like I told you. There was that guy. They went crazy on college campuses playing the assassination game. So me and my friends in college decided we need to play that too. That was a movie based on that. Yes.
He also used to be married to Linda Hamilton. No longer, though.
So back in the 80s. Been married. She's took a sampling from every decade, I think.
From every decade, exactly. Barbara Crampton played Megan Halsey. You know her from Beyond. You're Next, Re-Animator, We Are Still Here. She was in Castle Freak.
I love Castle Freak.
All over the place. David Gale played Dr. Carl Hill. He's actually a British actor, but you can really tell from this movie.
I've seen him in stuff.
He was in The Re-Animator, Bride of Re-Animator, something called The Guyver. He was in The Brain.
He wasn't the MacGyver, though.
Not the MacGyver. Robert Sampson.
Familiar. He wasn't in anything real?
No, he might have been, but nothing that leaps to mind.
All right, go for it.
Robert Sampson played Dean Halsey. You know him from Re-Animator. He was in Dark Side of the Moon, Robot Jocks, the Shirley Temple movie. You know him, don't you?
Well, that seems at least more mainstream than Robot Jocks. Who did he play in the Shirley Temple movie? Shirley?
Yeah, he did. It was a command performance. Another thing that I forgot to mention is the muscle-bound zombie who they reanimate in the morgue, who kills Dean Halsey, was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double.
Oh, how funny! I swear to you, I thought you were going to tell me it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, the one who got his heart drilled out from the back.
Yes, that dude. Let's talk about the rating. Re-Animator, buckle up.
All right.
94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
There's something wrong with the
boom. Audience only gave it 82%.
There's something wrong with America.
Something's wrong with America. Let's talk about Let's talk. Let me see what the top critics have to say. Let me see if there's anybody particularly famous. I
No
could do
Roger
this work
Ebert?
beforehand. Here we go. Gene Siskel from the
Ooh.
Chicago Tribune.
Right.
Oh, those crazy doctors. When will they ever learn to stop messing around with the natural order of life and death? 2.5 out of 4 from Gene Siskel. So there you go.
That's pretty good for
Not too shabby.
what it is. That doesn't sound like a 94.
Not a 94 from him, that's for sure. But 2.5 out of 4 is considered a passing score.
It
on
is.
this deal.
If that was your high school final, you passed.
Janet Maslin
Oh, Lord.
from the New York Times.
Lay it on me.
All of this, ingenious as it may be and much as it will redound to Mr. Gordon's credit in hardcore horror circles, it is absolutely to be avoided by anyone not in the mood for a major bloodbath. That is true.
I mean, let's tell the truth. Unless you're into this kind of a movie, you're going to hate it. Right? I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
True. You have to be in the mood for, like, I'm down with some horror with some gross comedy. You have to be one of those kind of people.
Gross comedy horror. Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you are just going to see where the crawdads sing and dance, you're going to be in for a
It's
shock.
always crawdads with you these days. Very upsetting.
Can we reanimate a crawdaddy? And will it sing?
Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4. We have been assaulted by a lurid imagination, amazed by unspeakable sights, blindsided by the movie's curiously dry sense of humor. I guess that's our money's worth. I don't know.
I mean,
you don't sound like ringing endorsements.
No, they're not ringing endorsements. I mean, it's amusing. It's campy. If you're used to, like, Exorcist or Omen or things that are more dark, and then this pops up, it's probably refreshing. It's wacky. If you're in high school or college and you're a boy,
yes, that helps.
It helps a lot. You got your freaks over. You're eating pizza. You know, you're gonna love this.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. So let's do. What is your rating, Aaron? Hit me.
Okay, I was going to give it 3.75, but due to severed head oral sex, there was a deduction. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 colons the size of a ham trying to grab you and suck you back into the orifice out of 5.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I give it 4 out of 5 naked CPR. That's what I give it, just because I think that's the only way to do it. I think, look, as I've said 1,000 times, not Shakespeare, not safe for the whole family, not safe for work. However, if this is a kind of genre that appeals to you, it is a lot of fun, is what I think. It definitely has camp. It definitely has dry humor to it. It also has bizarre oral sex, and it has eyeballs exploding. So that with...
I'm going to interrupt you. This is a movie made by men.
Yes.
With a sophomoric sense of humor.
Yep.
For men of the same ilk. You have nudity. You have raunchy humor.
You do.
You have entrails. What more do you need?
This is basically From Beyond, which we've reviewed on this show, was basically kind of a false sequel because it's the same director, same writer, same producers, and it's got Herbert West. It's got Jeffrey Combs, and it's got Barbara Crampton. If you enjoyed that, I think you'll really enjoy Re-Animator. Is basically,
you know what I would
attitude.
really enjoy? If Mr. Combs and Miss Crampton got married and had babies because of this. That, I think, would be the greatest news ever.
That did not happen. I'm sorry to say. So, thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Aaron, are we on Instagram?
We're on the Insta and the Gram. We are, in fact, The Podcast That Wouldn't Die.
You can email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So make sure you like, share, review, and rate, if you will. Aaron, are you on social media?
I like how we're imitating Nazis now as part of our promo. But yes, I am on Instagram myself. I am the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am also Don't Feed the Pigeons, if you'd like to see my pigeon work. I am on the Twitski at Queen Aaron. I don't read your DMs. I have art for sale on Artsy, Aaron Doherty. First Dibs, Aaron Doherty. Help a sister out.
Good times had by all.
Good times anytime you need them.
Next time, we'll be discussing the ecological horror film Frogs, which I've loved Frogs from way back, but somebody emailed us on our hotline and said, do some Frogs. So we're doing Frogs starring Ray Milland and an incredibly young Sam Elliott. No mustache.
I will tell
Sam
you,
Elliott.
I didn't see this movie for years because when I was little, I saw the poster, which was a giant bullfrog with a human arm sticking out of its mouth. And that was enough to send poor Aaron into a frenzy of fear.
Spoiler alert, that does not occur in this movie.
I know, the poster's a lie. It might have been better.
It's a damn lie.
A damn lie.
Now, where can you watch Frogs, you're asking?
Is it Pluto, Tubi, a bootleg copy on YouTube? Is it on the dark web, Kevin?
You can definitely go to your local library and just ask, hey, got Frogs back there? They may have
it. Is there a novelization of the movie?
It's entirely possible. To watch Frogs for free, you need to go on Pluto TV, and you can watch for free with ads. Otherwise, you can rent it, if you insist on renting it, for $3.99 on Apple TV and on Amazon Prime.
And how much is it to buy it? $1.99, but you can rent it for $3.99?
$14.99.
What the what?
So I would recommend watching it for free. So there you go.
I have a question. You know, I was forced. I had a people over, and we were going to watch Cyrano, the new Cyrano with Tyrion Lannister, and it was such a piece of shit. But I had to buy it because I lost that free window. So it was $20. Now, if I call Amazon and say this is a piece of shit, can I get a $20 credit so I can use that to rent movies for the podcast? Do you think they'll go for that?
Well, here's the thing. People don't realize this, but I do not work for Amazon customer service. I have no idea if this is a piece of shit, give me a refund method will work, but try it.
Will that work in the theaters? This is bullshit. Give me my $14 back.
It's possible. Who's to say? So thank you very much and be well.